I feel there are people actively suppressing the price. You're a whale and you have access to a lot of Bitcoins. You can really suppress the price. I was brought onto Jan 3 to open the doors to presidents, prime ministers, royals. We've had a lot of good conversations. I think Samson's been very busy. He wanted to speed up hyper-Bitcoinization. The conversation about monarchy returning in some countries, I'm hearing about it more. I'm hearing about it in Romania. I'm hearing about it even in France, obviously here in Serbia.
Today we are joined by royalty. That's Prince Filip, heir to the Serbian throne and CSO at Jan 3, the Bitcoin powerhouse behind Aqua Wallet that's pitching reserves to emperors and presidents. In this episode, Filip breaks down how institutions and central banks are thinking about Bitcoin.
I was in traditional finance in an asset management firm. Central banks, they worry about, it's a competitor to central banks.
The next government likely to start stacking.
It's more the center-right party, but also from the more progressive left party as well. There is interest.
And why Bitcoin radically changes our systems of governance.
Bitcoin helped me understand monarchy better than ever before.
Plus, Prince Filip shares critical historic lessons like why Serbia experienced one of the worst cases of hyperinflation ever at 313 million% per month.
People's life savings were wiped out in a matter of minutes.
Good morning, Prince Filip. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited to have this conversation. To kind of kick things off, you've been working with a lot of high-level actors, both in governments and institutions as well, too. And even just to give us a quick lay of the land and how things are going, is there any recent developments? Is there anybody you're looking to talk to in the future that have been recently that you're able to share with us?
So yeah, good afternoon from Serbia. Yes, so we're in a few conversations at the moment with Jan 3. For listeners who don't know what Jan 3 is, it's a company started, it's a startup, a Bitcoin only startup started by Samson Mao. He was a former executive at Blockstream, and then he decided to start his own company called Jan 3. Everyone knows what Jan 3 comes from. He managed to get the URL for that. No one actually took that, so that was quite lucky.
That was a lucky find. I figured somebody would have been parked on it already.
Yeah, exactly. So his vision was that he wanted to speed up hyper-Bitcoinization. And by doing that, he wanted to be able to speak to nation states, to big actors, corporations, and just individuals around the world. And that's the top-down approach. We all know Bitcoin is a bottom-up grassroots approach. That's the strategy. But, there's always could use with a lending hand from top-down. And it gives Bitcoin some credibility. If you speak to a minister, president, prime minister, and stuff, that helps for people to maybe pay attention and listen. And so that's one of the things that we do is at Jan 3. But our bottom-up strategy, Jan 3, is that we've released our Aqua Wallet, which we'll talk about a little bit later. That's a Bitcoin-only wallet, but with USDT on Liquid, so Bitcoin-centric chain, sidechain, layer 2 solution. And we can talk about that later. But your question was about conversations. So yeah, I was brought onto Jan 3 to open the doors to individuals, to people around the world, to presidents, prime ministers, royals, and stuff like that. And we've had a lot of good conversations. And the recent ones, I would say that I think Samson's been very busy. He was earlier this year, and Q2 and Q1 and Q1. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He was in Japan, meeting with various politicians there. And when it was in Japan, we got an introduction and to possibly make a connection to the Emperor of Japan. And I sent him a very nice letter. We had it translated into Japanese properly. And we had that sent to the emperor. So hopefully, maybe we'll make a connection with that. But Samson met with some very big politicians there. One from the center right, sort of call it populist. What is democracy, populism, or meritocracy, whatever. But it's more the center right party, but also from the more progressive left party as well. So there's interest there. Japan is they're talking about it. So. He also met with a central bank there. Actually, had a meeting with the central bank, and we tried to shield him, Bitcoin as a reserve. It's a no-brainer for us. It's a no-brainer, but for them, it's still something to get over.
I'm kind of curious, even just, I want to tease that apart just a little bit. So we're having conversations with high leaders in the government, potentially the emperor, which is unbelievably cool. Just for the record, I think it's unbelievably cool that I'm talking to a prince who's talking to emperors. So this is all lots of fun for me. But those conversations that you're having, what sort of pushback or hesitation are you finding? Where is it that they're they're deviating, or they don't get it, or they're just not interested right now?
Well, it could be a few things. I mean, it could be ideological, it could be operational. I mean, finance ministers, they worry about like the volatility of it, rating agency optics and things like that. Central banks, I mean, they worry about the if I mean, they worry about not worry about it, but they it's a competitor to central banks, really. So
Do
they're
they
just
see it that way?
I think so. Yeah, they don't
Really? Okay.
I mean, we haven't spoken to many central banks, but it's mainly just, I guess, it's an exercise of learning of learning about it and how it can probably fit in. I mean, regulators, they worry about a lot of things. I mean, and energy ministers fear about ESG blowback and that sort of stuff, and how. But obviously, we sell it so that, you know, when mining, it can fix flare gas, it can do a lot of good things. You know, Bitcoin is always seeking out wasted energy, stranded energy, and monetizing it and making the energy grid and energy more efficient. It's also an energy a renaissance movement as well. So we have a lot to tell them, a lot to sell, but there's pushback, and, you know, making connections with politicians, with leaders around the world it's easier said than done, because, you know, it's all about connections and having interest in the first place, because you're not going to be able to get a connection, say, hey, do you want to talk about Bitcoin? They'll be like, no. It requires some connection, some introduction beforehand. And, you know, we have a few of those. I have a few of them, and my name helps to open some doors. It helps to create that connection. I have some credibility. But of course, we also rely on you guys, on Bitcoiners all around the world. And we rely on your connections, and people come to us saying, hey, we made a connection with a so-and-so politician, some minister this, or maybe even president or prime minister. Can you help us? And we're like, great, yes, let's start a Telegram group or Signal group and see where it takes us. And we have many conversations with really great Bitcoiners all over the world.
That's it's funny just on that too. So I was just at the Canadian Bitcoin conference, and one of the things I was talking about with some of the guys there is it kind of reminds me of Fight Club. Like, we are everywhere, but you might not even realize that we're hidden in the shadows. And particularly, it feels to me like Bitcoin was established by Gen X, but millennials are kind of taking the lead at this point and really pushing it out to the masses. And millennials are in that point of life right now, kind of, we'll say around like me, like around mid-30s or so, where they're entering into maybe the mid or higher level roles in management, and they're working their way up to the top of the chain. So it's fascinating to know that you've got this network of Bitcoiners that are hidden behind the scenes, that are getting closer and closer to leadership positions at companies and governments and different organizations, that are then able to help you get in there and start to have those next level conversations for mass adoption on the nation state level.
Right. Yeah, I didn't really. Didn't look at it that way, but, you know, boomers are still in control.
Yeah. Oh God.
Boomers
yes.
are still in control. They still, I mean, asset-wise, they still have the biggest weight on their side. But but in terms of positions that now millennials are now seeping. I mean, seeping there and taking over those positions now, the high level management positions, and that's great for Bitcoin because we understand it better. And eventually, you know, the Gen X, is it Gen X's below us? Millennial? Yep. Yeah, Gen X's. These guys are the ones who need it the most. These guys, if not careful, they become nihilists. You know, they're ready for any sort of change. They are, you know, they will take any, you know, some of them, if they get pushed in the wrong direction, you know, it can be quite sad. But now Bitcoin is giving them hope and stuff. So a lot of Gen Xers are waking up to Bitcoin and understanding that Bitcoin can bring a beautiful future.
Filip, I think you mean Gen Zers or millennials.
Sorry, the Gen Zers.
Yeah, no problem.
I apologize. I got that backwards. Yeah, Gen X above.
Yeah, us Gen Xers are already nihilists. That ship has sailed.
I mean, we are. Yeah.
I'm curious then. So when you got brought into this role to make the connections to start working with these people, so just for some context, what were you doing beforehand, before moving over to Gen 3?
That's a good question. I was in traditional finance. I was working in London in an asset management firm. So yeah, I was actually working in quantitative equities as a portfolio analyst in quantitative equities. So it's a team that was That had a lot of quants in there. I wasn't one of them. I was mainly looking at portfolios and taking care of clients. But quite a lot of smart guys there. That's the product. I don't know if you ever heard about factor investing.
I have not. Could you explain this to me?
Factor investing is when you use 4 factors. There's like 4 or 5 factors that can help determine how attractive a stock is. So you have like value, and you have growth. Everyone knows about that. Then you have sentiment, momentum. And then you have quality, and I think I said them all. Yeah, quality, value, growth, sentiment, and momentum. So that's like 4 or 5. Yeah. And so we use algorithms to select. So to first rank those stocks in their own selective universe. So if we have global universe, or maybe just US universe, or global X Europe, or global X something, or maybe emerging markets, or global with emerging markets, and we rank stocks against each other, and we rank them according to their sentiment, or their momentum, or their growth score, or their value score, or their quality score, and we sort of pick the ones that do the best, maybe tick maybe 2 or 3 or more boxes, and that's kind of the quantitative side of it, but then there's a human side, which is about 10% of it, which is about then they do the rebalancing and select the trades, helped by the machines. No, so to some extent it actually works. It was actually quite good, and we actually have to outperform benchmarks. And when you look at it kind of quantitative like that, they do generate quite a bit of alpha in that respect versus the benchmark. But these are relative. These are not absolute strategies. They're not like hedge funds. These guys are actually just trying to beat the benchmark. So these benchmark providers like MSCI or S&P and things like that. You just have to do like beat them by 2 or 3% a year, and you'll be doing all right.
I'm very curious. Something that jumped out at me there, and you might not have any information on this as well too. Of those factors, were there any that were perhaps weighted more than others, or that were commonly more successful? And the only reason I'm asking is because it jumped out to me of like how far we are in late stage fiat. Like if sentiment is all you need to know, and you're going to hit pretty good, that tells me that the underlying fundamentals of the company and its profitability really doesn't matter.
Sentiment was really it's FOMO.
It's just FOMO. Yes.
FOMO, yeah, exactly. Sentiment, momentum is a lot of it's just FOMO. Doesn't it can be anything pushing that stock, but yes, so does derive some value from good metrics, but in general, it's how a stock is performing, and if it's picked up some momentum and people just jump onto it. The 2 interesting ones that we hear about the most in the asset management world is value and growth. So growth, you're talking about your big sort of fangs, so your Facebooks, Amazons, Googles, and Apples, and things like that. These are the big growth companies, which have a huge, but that's now, they a lot of concentration in those guys, because they have grown so much that they make up like 2 or 3% of a given benchmark, and so everyone's going to be kind of almost overweight on them at some point. Value is. We always seem to be in the growth market with all the money printing. There's something I wasn't really switched on to before, is why is growth is in recent years, in the recent 10, 15 years, 20 years, or 20, almost coming up to 20 years since the great financial crisis, growth was always more in favor than value, because of all the stimulus that was being pumped into the markets and stuff. So it made sense. It suddenly started to make proper sense as I started to learn about Bitcoin. Value. I value the value guys, because the value guys actually make some good analysis, but they have growth stacked against them, and it's still not saying the value is that it doesn't outperform at all, because there's points where like during COVID, when that whole shit happened, it tanked the markets, and sort of value started to outperform. Well, there was some other weird stuff happening there, because some people kind of knew what was going on. But in general, value would have performed better slightly better after COVID, slightly better during COVID, but then right after COVID, when all that stimulus came in, then if you were not overweight on growth, you would have been taken out. I mean, you would not be performing well, and it kind of goes against the rationality. You think like during COVID, during a I'm careful what I say there, pandemic, that you would. I've said it before. you think that during the pandemic that you would not see much growth? It would not be a good place for markets in general. You think you would see stock markets tanking to all-time lows and stuff like that. But what we actually saw was absolute opposite. And when they reached the bottom in March 2020, then by later that year, by August or September 2020, we were already touching all-time highs in the S&P and Dow Jones. Yeah. And people are like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, yeah, this maybe is a time when I'm learning about Bitcoin and realize what's really going on. Yeah.
This might be actually not be the indicator that you think it is pointing to something else right now. Gary, give me 1 second, then I promise I'll let you hop in. I'm curious, you may not, but do you still have any contact with the old colleagues from the TradFi world? And do they think you're absolutely crazy for what you're doing, or are any of them starting to see the light?
Yeah, so when I first got into Bitcoin 2017, and that was during the early mid 2017. And there was a couple of other guys in the company that were getting into Bitcoin as well. So we were talking, people overheard here and there. So there was talk about Bitcoin back then. And people thought, oh yeah, that's crazy. What's all that about? And at that point, I was still very naive to it all. And I was, it seems like a good investment. I'm still at that investment stage, just trying to understand it. And obviously just distracted by other things available on Coinbase, so I bought some Litecoin, some Ethereum.
We all make mistakes.
We all make, yeah.
We've been there.
And there were people in there saying, "Oh, this is some scam. This is bullshit." They're like, yeah, they're kind of right actually, because Ethereum and Litecoin are.
Yep.
So yeah, but they were like, "Oh yeah," and it got to 10,000, and they go, "Then you're going to sell, Filip?" I'm like, "No, I actually kind of like this. I'm sticking around. I'm kind of sticking around. Oh, you should sell." And I heard one of our portfolio managers, one of our senior people on the team, who I got on really well. She says, "I just advised my so-and-so relative to sell his or her Bitcoin at 10,000." I was like, that's a big mistake. That stuff's going to be worth a lot more in the future. And this is me not really knowing much what I was getting into, thinking, I kind of got, because it was my best friend in London who got me into it. And he said, look, this is a good inflation hedge. And this is gonna change. This is gonna revolutionize the financial world. But of course, we were also into buying all the other shit coins, and it was a day. 2017 was a time of what you call it, those
the ICO craze.
ICOs, yes. Sorry, I can't forget that, but I did forget it for a sec. I lost a bit of money doing those ICOs, but we were always thinking what the next strategy was. We were joining some groups here and there to try and figure out what the next ICO is and trying to make some money. But we rarely made any money, but we were always just hungry to try and we will just pull it off the next time. We'll 100x for 1000x next time and things like that, but never really happened. Never happened. But anyway, where I went with this, yes. So, finance guys, a lot of them were just questioning it and saying, yeah, that's a scam. This is, this is not really going to float much for, this is all going to crash and stuff. And, it did crash. Of course, the price crashed and stuff, but that didn't deter me. I actually stacked more. I sold most of my shit coins because I saw those tanked even more, and quietly was stacking throughout 2018, 19, and then end of 2019 to 2020. Oh yeah, when COVID hit, I bought that when it slumped down to like $3,000 again. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Damn you!
Just backed up the truck. I will take everything you will sell me.
Yeah, exactly. But I wish I had more dry powder, as we used to call in the training days back then. But I didn't have that much. But I managed to get a little bit of that a little bit of a bite on that price. I was really happy with myself. And I remember not showing it off, but talking to people. Now is a good time to buy. Right now, buy. What do you know? This is terrible. Yeah, we're going to laugh at you in the future. I was like, yeah, we'll see about that. And then slowly, around 2022, as I was transitioning out of this was 2021, as I became a full-fledged maxi by then. Our team, partnering with another team who also does some sort of quant stuff, another fantastic asset management weird stuff. We're going to start creating a portfolio of crypto, of Bitcoin centric related companies. Mm-hmm. And the people who were put in charge of that were people who were very vocally against Bitcoin and then had to against me as well. Just we had some laughs about it, but then next thing you know, they're trying to determine which companies had exposure to Bitcoin or crypto or something like that. And so yeah, it kind of went around full circle on them. It was hilarious. So then by 2022, they actually opened up a fund where they started tracking Bitcoin centric companies, like, exposure to Bitcoin, not actually buying the thing. You can't. I mean, asset management world, you have to be able to buy the actual thing will require like the reshaping of the industry, and the regulations and the hoops and things you have to jump through will be insane. I mean, you could do it, they could do it, but we're still a bit far away from that. I mean, but some are, but through ETFs and stuff, but actually owning the thing, no, not anytime soon.
Yeah, I would think even just trying to figure out how just your key management. Okay, this company is going to own it. Who's going to have keys to this thing becomes probably a little bit tricky at that level.
Exactly. It's just the regulations. I mean, the regulations, the structure of the company is not set up for it yet. Yeah, they own it when they buy ETFs, or we think they own it when they buy ETFs.
Reasonably certain.
Yeah. But who was it who said that they can convert to Bitcoin from ETFs recently? Wasn't Vanguard?
Fidelity.
No, Vanguard. Sorry, Vanguard was late to it. Fidelity, I think.
Yeah. We're talking about in-kind redemption and in-kind creation.
In-kind redemption, in-kind creation. Correct. Yeah, you know better more than I do. Yeah, Fidelity were always quite ahead of the game. Actually, they wrote that really good report about Bitcoin, basically separating it from the rest. And I thought that's fantastic. That was in 2021, I believe, or 2022.
Yep.
A fantastic
They're
report.
doing their own custody solution. They've definitely had Bitcoiners in their midst for a while that have had everybody's ear making those connections.
So respect to Fidelity. And the other respect to is not asset management, it's to KPMG for writing that incredible report about Bitcoin being the best ESG asset that you could ever have. And
I don't think I saw that one.
Oh, this is
that come out?
This is one you got to share. This was written in 2023. Yeah. So just type in KPMG Bitcoin ESG, and it's a report written with the KPMG logo there. So one of the big four logo there, basically bigging up Bitcoin. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's fantastic. And just that's a great tool to use to give to that type of person, that the people I used to work with. It's like, hey, here you go, check this out. And it helps. It helps.
Are you sick of the fiat-funded fast fashion that falls apart quicker than the dollar? The cheap stuff made to drain your wallet one inferior product at a time? Stop it. There's a better way. Panties for Bitcoin is a family-oriented company built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners and held to that unbreakable Bitcoin standard. Certified made-in-Italy underwear that lasts as long as your metal backups. Guys, grab a couple pairs of those lightning boxers for yourself. The softest, most comfortable, durable pair you'll ever own. And surprise your lady with luxurious panties, bras, and thongs. No better way to spark those all-too-important Bitcoin conversations and spread adoption than attractive people in their underwear. Naturally, you can pay with Bitcoin, supporting the circular economy and building that parallel system. Simply scan the QR code or click the link in the description down below and head to pantiesforbitcoin.com and use promo code BTC Sessions to save 10%. Snag yours and share your love for Bitcoin in a new peer-to-peer way. Attention all freedom-loving Alberta Bitcoiners. Tired of the big six banks freezing funds, blocking transactions, or slamming your account shut without warning or explanation just for dipping into Bitcoin? Remember the Freedom Convoy debanking nightmare?
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act.
But don't let them control your money or erase your financial life. Join the pioneers over at Bow Valley Credit Union, a place run by freedom and sound money advocates. I bank there myself. They are the first and only traditional bank or credit union in Canada to directly integrate Bitcoin via their Bitcoin gateway. If you have to use dollars, why settle for a fiat-only account when you could seamlessly move in and out of Bitcoin? No hassle, no questions, no rehypothecation, no leverage. This isn't paper Bitcoin. Withdraw to self-custody at any time. Insured and auditable, it's perfect for adding Bitcoin to your corporate balance sheet. If you or your business is in Alberta, switch to your Bitcoin refuge at bowvalleycu.com. Scan the QR code or click the link below.
It's a wonderful tool to give people permission too. That somebody's interested, but again, they're concerned about that ESG FUD, that bad narrative coming out. It gives them another kind of arrow in the quiver that they can use to be like, no, we're actually good on this front as well too. In the same way that, when you're talking about Japan, the one thing that struck me, I was thinking about nuclear energy. Like, what a great place to have Bitcoin mining if you have an abundance of nuclear energy, and that fortunately enough, the AI craze has actually kind of helped us, because I think we've got it. Where is it? Microsoft's bought 3 Mile Island to try and spin up nuclear, and it's shifting that narrative a little bit and making it more acceptable to create more energy for these sort of things, and hopefully will help push us forward. Gary, did you have any questions or thoughts there, buddy?
Yeah, I had a few, but just, first off, if you're wondering who in the company controls the keys, it's always the person with the best mustache. So just so you know, in the future, that's who handles it.
That's the rule.
That's the rule. Your Highness, thank you for joining us. Never said that before. I do have a couple questions, actually.
Sure.
You're from a traditional finance background, and we've talked to TradFi people before, and I talked to TradFi people. I know some personally, and I always wonder what causes somebody to sort of, I don't want to say see the light, because like you said, you didn't see it initially. Like you started in 2017 because you thought, hey, this could go somewhere. This could be a good investment. But it took you a few years to fully get it and go all in. And that was the same with me. I didn't get it all overnight, and Nathan as well, a lot of other people. But I do wonder what caused you, and I don't want to say because it's so cliche, to think outside the box when so many other TradFi people dismiss it. And why did you pursue that? Because I'm sure you must know still people in the TradFi space who still poo-poo it, who still say this is nonsense. I wonder from a psychological level, what causes somebody to say, hey, let me take a chance on this?
I think it's open-mindedness. That's number one, being open-minded. And I think a lot of the people that work in traditional finance, they're the upper managerial class, the managerial classes of society, the top layer of society, and whether they're open-minded or not, they also have reputations to keep and protect, and that's why this class of people are also the ones who are most subject to indoctrination. And yeah, the things that happened over the last few years worked the best on them over the like the COVID stuff and Ukraine war and all that sort of stuff. These are the guys who are drinking the Kool-Aid the most. So for them, understanding Bitcoin, it's like goes against their principles, their world, and yeah, I think that's what it is. So they're just trying to protect what they know and what they understand and what they're comfortable with, and that understandably, they just trying to feed their families and trying to get the next paycheck and stuff. And I mean, they do well, of course. We can't be. They're incentivized to do this. It's not really they're being malicious or anything. It's just, you would do it. I mean, most people would do it too. I mean, what separated me, and I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet over here, is I guess there was just a few of us who are a little bit more open-minded, I guess, a little bit more, we question things, and we're maybe could be some background or something that's happened to us earlier in life, or things that we've seen or whatever it is, but I don't know. But some of us are more aware of what's going on, of what's really going on. And that's I believe that's what helped me. And even though some of my friends, who are a lot of them in that sort of managerial class I talk about, even though they know I'm into Bitcoin and they know what I'm doing and stuff, they're still not really convinced at all. We have some good conversations, and it's kind of frustrating sometimes, but it's difficult to understand. I mean, what also helped me is studying it as well. And I really did put in the hours to studying it around 2020, 2021, and seeing things on Bitcoin Twitter helped as well. I always say this, that I opened up, I reopened a dormant Twitter account I had for like 10 years and started following, this was like 2020, I started following other crypto accounts and Bitcoin accounts and things like that. The next thing I noticed is like, actually the Bitcoin Maxi guys are speaking a lot of sense over here. And it was great to see. Then things happen, and you start to learn about like the difficulty adjustment, and I thought that was beautiful. I mean, that's the kind of one of the glues, the gel that puts it all together, and that was like quite beautiful. And then to see it in practice around 2021 when China banned Bitcoin mining, and just seeing that huge downwards adjustment, and then Bitcoin becoming the Hydra, where you cut off one head and 20 other heads grow. Decentralization, anti-fragile at its finest. It was beautiful. That clinched it. That clinched it.
That's really cool, man. I guess I also wonder, you said they're not acting maliciously, and I agree. I don't think, I try not to attribute to malice what could easily be attributed to ignorance. So that's a kind of a little variation on that saying there. But I do wonder if there is any strategy among traditional finance, your Jamie Dimons of the world, to to poo-poo it while they can sort of stack behind the scenes and get their ducks in a row, and then publicly they can say, oh yeah, no, this is great, we all of a sudden changed our minds on this. Have you encountered any of that in traditional finance?
No.
Okay.
No, but you do feel like that's going on. You do feel like there's a lot of, Bitcoin is maturing, and you're going to get a lot of rebalancing. When Bitcoin pumps, you're going to get people rebalancing and selling off, and then when Bitcoin dips, you're going to get a lot of people buying. So you're going to get slightly less volatility on a longer term and stuff. But still, I feel, this is me feeling, and no evidence whatsoever is that there are people actively suppressing the price. It feels like
really.
It. I think it is. And again, no evidence, no nothing. It just feels like that we could be a lot higher than we are right now.
Agreed. It almost like my justification for it, again, it's possibly just even cope, was that approaching six figures. I figured that was such a psychological number for a lot of people. Like, imagine you got in like $100 or sub $1,000, and you have 100K kind of in your mind. It's the dream number to get to at some point. That I imagine that was the price target for so many people that were in the space for an incredibly long time. That the reason with all the additional institutional demand, I think there's just that many OGs taking the lifestyle change that they're basically saying, like, you know what, I will upgrade from here. I'll make some changes from here. But it's interesting that you would spend so much time in TradFi, because your intuition is going to tell you something, right? Like your subconscious is like 10 or 100 times faster than your conscious brain. And so if your gut's telling you, like, I think some shenanigans are happening, there's probably, well, I can almost guarantee some are happening, but maybe there is substantial to some extent.
Just look at the history of the stock market and look at how much insider dealing, trading and stuff there is. You can't inside trade Bitcoin, but it's definitely, it is the Wild West, and it's 24/7. And you can literally do anything with it. Obviously you can't actually push the price to any way you want, but if you're a whale and you have access to a lot of Bitcoins, you can really suppress the price. I just think if they can do it, they will, but it's not something they could do forever.
Correct. Yeah.
Prince Phil, I just do want to point out, if you know what the president is about to tweet in 30 minutes, you can insider trade anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, that was quite the sell-off. I think, what was it? Yeah, somebody had a giant short position 30 minutes before that tweet came out.
Exactly. That's the stuff that we all hate, but that's just the system that we live in. The world that we live in today. If you have access to that information, you will use it to your advantage, and you can't stop that.
Agreed.
No, you're 100% right. Sorry, Nate, did you have something there you wanted to?
I did. I actually wanted to jump off the world that we live in today, because there was another topic that's kind of taking a big right turn here that I wanted to discuss with you, which was kind of the history of Serbia and what we can learn from that in terms of where we are and where we're going. So
sure,
we've had that. Most people have that normalcy bias, in the sense that the way things are is the way that they will kind of always be. That they think that the current organization of nations in the world will perpetuate into the future. But it was only about 34 years ago to the day, roughly, that we had the dissolution of the Republic of the Yugoslavia following the collapse of the Soviet Union. And Serbia, modern day Serbia as we know it based on the borders, I think has only been around since about 2006. So first and foremost, kind of just taking a look at the past, can you help me understand what actually happened during this period? And in particular, was the currency at all involved in contributing to the chaos in terms of what happened?
Sure. You're looking about the last 30 years.
If we go back to basically the fall of the Soviet Union and the creation and the fall of the Republic of Yugoslavia turning into Serbia today, can you give me a little bit of backstory on that transformation that resulted in the country that we have today, and if the currency was at all involved?
You would have to go back a lot further to fully understand it, but
let's go back further.
Start with ancient Rome.
Exactly. No, yeah, and where do we can start? No, let's try and keep it to the last 30 years. Let's try and let's see. So the last 30 years is characterized with a lot of huge sovereignty changes within Yugoslavia. So 30 years ago, it was Yugoslavia. But let's rewind a little bit back, actually, to Yugoslavia was created in the 1919. It was first the kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. This was created by King Peter I and King Alexander, and his son would later be King Alexander I, and they did so to unite the people of the Balkans as the fall of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and to the threats of Germany and other forces around, and the Ottomans in the air, and the dying Ottoman Empire. He helped to unite the people and create a sort of little small empire where we're, together we were stronger. That then later turned into adding 3 more states, which was then Bosnia, Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Macedonia, and that's what turned into the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. Then he was King Alexander was sadly assassinated in 1934 in Marseille, France. And this is where history gets kind of interesting around here. This is his assassination in Marseille in France was, people said it was some hardcore nationalists from Macedonia, or from Croatia, who were not happy with Yugoslavia and who wanted their own state, were the ones who did this. But I think I always have this suspicion of this, and people do have suspicion that there was other forces at work, because at the same time, King Alexander was one of the champions of the Little Entente, the Petit Entente, which is a defensive pact of some very big countries, which included France, Belgium, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Yugoslavia, Greece, I believe, and a couple of other ones. Please don't quote, test me there. Anyway, and when King Alexander was, it wasn't his idea. This was actually a French initiative, but King Alexander was one of the biggest champions of it. And when he was assassinated afterwards, then the Little Entente Pact, defensive unity, broke apart and ceased to exist, which also would have added as a way of stopping. This would have helped to stop Hitler's expansionism during the Second World War. So maybe someone knew what was happening, and because this was 1934, this is just about when Hitler came to the power. But at that point, we didn't know Hitler. Hitler didn't even know that he was going to be expansionary. But someone else kind of might have predicted that, which kind of led to the Second World War. And
it's very interesting too, because it just jumped up that he happened to be, if France was the organizer behind it, but he was the biggest champion. To be assassinated then in France just seems maybe just too coincidental.
Exactly. Some weird things. And I'm slowly learning art history a little bit, and I'm trying to study it when I have time. Very complicated European history, especially Balkan history. I mean, Balkan is the word has its own meaning. The fractured history, it's volatile history, but it's fascinating. And it's made me ask a lot of questions, and I'm not getting a lot of answers because it's very difficult to find the answers, but you kind of get a gist of what happens. So when King Alexander was assassinated in 1934, that led to, his son, my grandfather, King Peter II, was too young at the time. He was only 11 years old when he was assassinated. So there was three people that took charge of Yugoslavia. Then one of them was the cousin of King Alexander, which was Prince Paul. Then when my grandfather became of age in 1941, then he became king. There was a coup d'etat happening there as well, because Prince Paul anyway, I'm not going to get into the weeds of it there. By that point, we're in the middle of the Second World War, and it wasn't a great time. At that point, when King Peter II became king and became of age, we had to evacuate the country. And so this led to, he was protected and advised because of his young age, but also he didn't have the best advisors around him, I've got to say. But to flee the country, I think he could have done a better choice. I mean, not him himself, but he could have had better advisors. But he fled to the UK, and then the UK welcomed him with open arms. I mean, this is where things get very interesting, and people know about this. Is that actually the UK were very close, the royal family, very close to our family. Like the Queen of England was my father's, former Queen of England, Elizabeth, was my father's godmother. King Peter II's best man was King George. So so we were close to them. Yet, here's the interesting thing. Then around 1944, so within our country, we had 2 divisions. We had the partisans, which were the commies, the socialists, and we had the Chetniks, which were the royalists. And they were sort of fighting together against the fascists, against the Bolsheviks, and then which was a shorter occupation, and then the Germans, the fascists, which was a lot longer occupation. When we got rid of those and essentially drove them out, then we turned on each other as Balkans usually do.
Naturally.
Naturally.
Revolutions.
I can already hear it in the background. It's
yeah, you can
starting
hear
up
it in the
again.
background. There's tears still. That's my daughter Maria. So that led to so then they turned on each other. Civil war happening during the Second World War. Ugly times, horrible times. These both sides during. Yes.
Oh, geez. Okay.
It was horrible. It was really horrible. This also comes from Serbia was the country that actually had the biggest casualties per population, per percentage population during the First World War. We lost about 30% of our 25% of our population, half of of working age men. It was horrible.
God.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
We had the biggest, one of the costliest nations. So anyway, Second World War, then that led to partisans and Chetniks turned on each other, and the Chetniks was originally supported by the Brits, but then a decision was made. This General Fitzroy MacLeod, Scottish guy from the Conservative Party, led an operation then to flip the support and push for partisan support for the partisans, and say because someone somewhere made a decision that it would be better to have a socialist, a communist or socialist republic installed in Yugoslavia than it would be having a kingdom. Why? Because a kingdom is very independent and it's less subject to outside influence. Whereas a socialist republic, they knew very well that this would actually require help from abroad because socialism fails. Communism fails, and it'll be easier to control. So the powers that be decided it was better to have Yugoslavia as a socialist, as a failing socialist republic. And this is evidence even in their GDP. 60% of Yugoslavia's trade during so Tito was a general who became the dictator there. 60%, 60, 70 or so percent of GDP of Yugoslavia actually came from the West. We were never really fully behind the Iron Curtain. We were dancing between both sides of the Iron Curtain. Tito was the biggest king of them all. He was educated individual with very big taste, and he confiscated everything from the bourgeois and from the elite class and from all the monarchist people and stuff. And then he killed a lot of people doing this as well. But he actually confiscated 33 villas and stuff, and he was living the life. But also he was also very good at being a diplomat and organizing. And he's the one who led the non-aligned movement, which is the movement of the Second World, of the communism of African countries, Asian countries all around the world. He led that. So this was a way that the West could have their control of the other side of the curtain, of the other side of the world through Yugoslavia. So it was strategic. But that all, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I just recently had a conversation with Tom Luongo, and it's funny because everything that we chat about, it always comes back to the city of London being the one behind the curtain, the one pulling the strings. And once again, I'm being told that yes, the Brits may have got their grubby little hands in there.
Oh, the Brits are fantastic when it comes to foreign policy. They are the kings of, as great as they are and as many beautiful things they've invented. And, I've lived most of my life in Britain and I have loads of British friends and stuff. They really screwed up a lot of the world. And I say this with love. Really. They're just the champions of that.
Imagine mining Bitcoin cheaper than buying on an exchange, with direct payouts hitting your wallet like clockwork. Saz Mining makes it real. You own the rig, no gimmicks. It's your asset pumping out Bitcoin every single day. No markup on hardware or electricity. They get paid when you get paid, fully aligning incentives. Mining Bitcoin below exchange cost is a great way to DCA your stack. It's so simple, anyone can do it. No tech skills required. You get white glove support and education, a rig performance guarantee, plus it's powered by 100% carbon-free energy prioritizing renewables. Ready to take control of your Bitcoin future? Visit sazmining.com by scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description down below to book a free consult and start mining today.
Stuck on your Bitcoin setup? Unlock expert guidance from top educators. Schedule a free chat at bitcoinmentor.io and get started hassle-free today. All right, let's jump back into the episode.
So then why I'm getting to this is because it's important, because Yugoslavia was strategic. This is Belgrade was the center of the Balkans, of geographic center over here. It was like the melting pot of Central Eastern Europe. And when what happened was Tito died in 1980. NATO was started to be formed around those years. I don't know the exact years. NATO started to be formed, and then the Eastern answer to NATO was the Warsaw Pact. That's the Eastern equivalent of NATO. When that fell apart, and NATO won essentially. Then that's when interest in Yugoslavia started to die down, and money started to be pulled out and stuff. And so that's around in the 1980s and beginning 1990s, and that's when we started to, especially even in the 70s before Tito died, there was inflation, but 80s it started getting worse inflation. By the 90s, we actually had one of the biggest bouts of inflation ever in the history of hyperinflation, the third worst. It was horrible.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my
yes,
God! I didn't know this.
I didn't know that either.
No. Yes. So, I mean, if you go back, it was the socialists. It was Tito. It was the socialists who introduced pure fiat into the economy. We didn't have. The Yugoslavia and Serbia before that was always based on to some extent on much more hard money standard. You know, the kingdom knew about the values of hard money. Obviously, it wasn't far from perfect. It's not Bitcoin, but you could just see it in the architecture as well. You can see it in how the things that were built during the kingdom last. The things that built during the kingdom have much more beauty to them. You know, they were built in the eyes of God, the eyes of low time preference and stuff. And then you have this drastic, huge change post World War architecture, and it's soulless, it's godless, horrible monstrosities. It's this brutalist stuff, which some lefties have tried to make beautiful and say, oh, look, brutalist is nice. There's some really nice examples. No, sorry. It's disgusting. It's angular. It's horrible. It just digs into your soul and takes it out. It's like disgusting. Yeah, it's horrible.
Ugly on purpose. It's absolutely awful. It's even like where I am. There's one building, and I got to bring this up because it's just so, Gary, it's the most ugly building you've ever seen. It's a new building, and they purposely have the windows and things not aligned. So not only is it just a box, but it's a skewed box, and it's gross.
I lived and worked in DC for 10 years. I could go off on brutalist architecture all day. It's awful.
Yeah. You can see a lot of it here. You see a lot of beautiful examples. Beautiful, I say. Horrible examples. Horrible examples. But then you see it juxtaposed with some beautiful examples of what real architecture is. And yet you could excuse that there was no money, Second World War, rebuilding and stuff like that. But no, actually, we had the Great War, the First World War, which we had to suffer by capita, by percentage, the worst ever death by any country involved in the First World War. Yet somehow we got our stuff together, and it was tough, but we were able to build even more beautiful architecture, leading into the 20s and the 30s, some incredible architecture. So yeah, it goes to show that was also thanks because of the incentives of being a monarchy and based on more of a hard money standard.
And taking pride in what you have. When you're a monarchy, you're taking pride in what you have. Is kind of as well too. So we're at, I think we're in the 1990s. We've had the third worst inflation.
Yeah. So Prince Philip is going to be a quiz on all this later. Just so you know.
So 1990s. So 1990s, we have the worst inflation ever. Like in 1992, 1994, it peaked. It peaked at like what is it? The calculation, like 3.1 times 10 to the power of whatever 8 per month or something. I can't even
conceive that.
Yeah,
wow.
It's horrible. People's life savings were wiped out in a matter of minutes, or months. Or weeks, not even days, basically. Horrible.
So just dump trucks of bills to buy a loaf of bread. I mean,
yeah, exactly. It's proper Weimar style things. Yeah, okay. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. So then there was the Abramovich program that was launched in 1994 to stop this inflation, and that was the new dinar, the Novi dinar, which was pegged 1-to-1 to the Deutschmark, ending hyperinflation. But that's interventionism, and we know where interventionism always leads. It always leads to more problems. Kind of fixes it very much in the short term. It looks fantastic, looks stable and everything, but you're just going to have second, third horrible order effects afterwards. So that was so up until then, 2000 October 5th, 2000 was when Milosevic was ousted. And I would say when neoliberalism was introduced into Yugoslavia, and we were still Yugoslavia up until 2004, when we just became Serbia and took away our title Yugoslavia. We're just known as Serbia Montenegro. And then in 2006, which you were correct in saying, is when Montenegro had the referendum and they voted themselves out, and we just became Serbia, and there was Montenegro. And then 2008, which we don't recognize as was with no referendum, was when Kosovo. Yeah, and that's still an issue that we're still dealing with today. Like half of the world don't recognize Kosovo, and some big countries don't recognize Kosovo, like Russia, China, India, Spain, Greece, Indonesia. Some big countries out there don't recognize Kosovo. And then since then, I would come and say that we've got the Serbian dinar, and in 2017, our current the government that we have now regime, they pegged the dinar to the euro unofficially pegged. And this sells the illusion of stability, as I said. And, the guy right now, the regime right now sells himself as being stable because of this. They maintain this illusion of purchasing power. And it's been pegged at 117 dinars to the euro ever since 2017. If you just look at a chart, you see all this volatility, then 2017, then it just goes flat. And people think it's great. At the beginning, it's fantastic. We can afford to import for imports and stuff. We got purchasing power against the rest of Europe. But what does that do to our local stuff? It destroys the local markets. And this is the second, third order effects. There's always going to, if you can fiddle with price, if you have price controls and having those interventionism, you're just going to lead to more problems. And we are seeing this now. We're seeing inflation, horrible bouts of inflation. I mean, I say not hyperinflation, but we do have pronounced inflation here, and it's not nice. It's not nice at all. Part of the reason why they did this as well was this is actually aids Europe more than it aids us. Is that we do 60% of our trade, 40% of our 60% of our trade with the European Union, of which a good chunk of that, I think 40% of it with Germany. And so this is one way just to facilitate trade, but it doesn't really help the average person here so much.
What's the main export?
Main export here, we have minerals as well, but also fruits and produce, but also parts as well. Like we do a lot of car assemblies and things like that here.
Oh, okay.
Just wait for Europe to basically strip resources a little bit and pull them out to their benefit.
Exactly.
Prince Filip, stepping back, I do have a question for you. It's not often I get to interview royalty or any head of state or anything like that. But we went over the history of Serbia. And as Nate mentioned earlier, we kind of live in an era where we have some recency bias. Like we all just assume, hey, democracy is how it is. And this is the way modern nations function, when in reality, it's a very, very recent thing. Historically, most nations have been dictatorships, monarchies, all empires, all sorts of things. Go ahead.
No, where this going?
I guess I wonder, do you see a transformation over the next 20 or 30 years with any specific nations perhaps moving away from democracy, without making a judgment on it, whether it's good or bad? Because I can tell you, I personally view democracy as just a means to an end. I know a lot of people say, well, democracy, we should be fighting for democracy. Well, you should be fighting for liberty. And if democracy is the best way to secure that liberty, fine, so be it. But if there are other ways, great. Do you envision any return to monarchy in some countries in the near term, or possibly long term, or some other new system that Bitcoin would kind of ring into the future?
So yeah, it's an interesting question, because I see more people talking about monarchy these days than ever before. And even myself, I wasn't fully switched on about the incentives of monarchy. pre-Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin helped me understand monarchy better than ever before, as well as also having a family as well, because monarchy and family, Bitcoin it lowers your time preference, and that's really one of the things that you wake up to. And monarchy's incentive is that it's a long-term thing, and creates stability over the long term, continuity, and that's something that we're lots of parts of the world are grappling with. And I think the conversation about monarchy returning in some countries, I'm hearing about it more. I'm hearing about it in Romania. I'm hearing about it in even in France. Obviously here in Serbia, if anywhere monarchy could return easily, it's over here. It could easily happen here. Our constitution is still the same of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia constitution. It was just changed a little bit to become the socialist constitution, and just so technically it could be done quite easily with a few legal decisions. But obviously you probably need the populace. You probably might need a plebiscite for it to happen, or not. I don't know. We haven't actually explored that yet, but you'll need definitely the support of the public for that to happen.
Do you view, I mean, aside from just even changing ways of governance, what do you view near or long term as the future of the nation state itself?
I think, well, look at to answer this, I think you have to look at how democracy is actually working today. And I think when you study democracy, you study the history of it. The first guys who were the early proponents of people pushing for democracy never really envisaged it being used in a population more than like 100,000 or so people. And what we have now is we have this huge democracy everywhere, and the general public in a democracy are largely uninformed, and you have elites or very highly informed individuals, and always the highly informed elites always going to be able to game the uninformed. So it's always going to skew towards favoring the elites, and you're always going to end up having corruption. And what we're seeing right now everywhere around the world is this growing corruption openly, but it's legalized to some extent, and it's accepted, but it's everywhere. And I think that's something that wouldn't have, under monarchy, you wouldn't get that so much, because you don't have the short-termism, you don't have short-term favors being made out to those who help fund the people who get into the power for only 4 or 5 years, saying, if we pay for your campaign, we'll give you this, that, and we'll pay you back. If you get me into power, then I can give you this, I can give you that. And this is an exchange that happens, and it only really happens at those at the highest level. And that over time just becomes more concentrated, and it becomes even rampant, and it destroys. It's just destroying us. I mean, but this is also studied by who is it? The Greek guy who did the anacyclosis. Publius. What's his name?
Oh, Publius.
Publius, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And now we're at the 7th stage right now. So Publius's anacyclosis is that you start with some people in an anarchy. I'm not saying anarchy in a bad way. It's just people in natural order. Mm-hmm. And then from there rises a strong leader, a strong man, essentially a king. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, the king is good, and people look up to him, and civilization progresses, and he has his heirs and stuff, and they're all going well until one day, then the heirs become weaker and weaker and become more tyrannical. So you end up losing those strong leaders, good leaders, and you end up getting tyrants. So then you move from stage 1, which is the kings, or monarchy, to tyranny. Mm-hmm. So then you get people who are more in the aristocracy, who start to rise up against that and take down the king or whatever. There's rising up, and then you have an aristocracy, and aristocracy goes very well and stuff. But then these guys they turn into fat cats. They do each other favors, and it becomes bad, and then aristocracy turns into a what's the word I'm looking for?
Shit show?
No, shit show. Yeah. what do we have over here? We have was it? Not like in capital. What is it in like in the Russia? You have oligarchy. That's
oligarchy.
Oligarchy.
Yeah. Oligopoly was the
yeah. Then we from some aristocracy to oligarchy, and that's not public don't like that. People don't like that. So then all of a sudden they rise up, and the next thing we know, we end up getting with democracy, and then democracy then goes all well and good and stuff, but then because the incentive structures of democracy is what we're talking about right now, lead us into what Polybius talked about was mob rule. Or chaos. And then from there, this is where we are probably right now, is between democracy and some sort of mob rule, even though I question mob rule because I don't think we have teeth so much in the public anymore that we can bite back. Or maybe we do, I don't know. We have enough strong men. We don't have enough hard people out there. Or maybe we do with the younger generations. But then from there, we will then a strong figure will rise up again, or monarchy will be questioned again. And then that's when we return to the cycle. I mean, this cycle was studied by John Adams when one of their forefathers and stuff, and he was a big Polybius reader and stuff, and he used anacyclosis, I believe it's called, and tried to sell it to the other guys, to the other forefathers like Jefferson and stuff, and try to teach people about it. And it's all great, but obviously in the States we have kind of a little bit of mix of that. We have kind of what happened in the Americas, very much similar to what happened to Rome. And you probably know about that more than I do.
We make the comparisons all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And now we are reaching that point where Rome is, kind of is failing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about, knowing the president's tweet 30 minutes beforehand and have that huge insider trading. I mean, that's like a sign of a declining empire when you can make that sort of massive public corruption and nobody's going to do a thing about it. It's just, that's what it is. That's how it happens. And, you lose faith in the institutions and you see what happens. Nate, did you have something?
No,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Prince.
Sorry, no, yeah. So what I was saying to that is, I think that cycle, that anacyclosis, it would help if they had Bitcoin. I think if you had Bitcoin, it would smooth things out a little bit, and it could be a great tool in maybe stopping at one of those stages, and you'll end up having just monarchy, or you end up having just aristocracy, or you just end up having a more efficient form of democracy. But still, no, it won't be perfect. But I think Bitcoin having that hard money that people can't debase away, and money clip away or print away like they've done in countless times in history. Which is one of the main reasons of why civilizations have always collapsed. I mean, not the main reason, but it's one of them. And I think that helps. Bitcoin helps.
Do you believe, Prince Philip? I'm sorry, Nathan. I just have one quick follow up. You talked about how the history of Yugoslavia initially, pre World War I, it started as sort of separate nation states and came together to be Yugoslavia. And sorry, you had something you wanted to mention?
Sorry, we talked about the smaller nations and stuff, but no, continue. Sorry.
Well, I guess I'm just wondering. That seems to have been kind of a trend throughout a lot of Europe, where you had, Italy was a bunch of like disparate states. Germany was a bunch of disparate states, and they formed together to be these large nation states. And then over time, more recently, we've seen a lot of these larger nation states break up. Do you see the future in, I guess, smaller size nation states or larger size nation states, or the elimination of the nation state altogether?
I think further down the line, maybe few decades from now, yes, you would probably get what Hans Hermann Hoppe, the Hoppean vision is that we would actually break down to be smaller states, as you talked about, like how Germany was in the 2 centuries ago. It was last even before First World War. Germany was a mix of how many small kingdoms, like 30 or 40 kingdoms. And
we're from Bavaria. Hey, what's up?
Exactly. And it was fledgling. It was growing. It was fantastic. Because why? Because there were smaller populations. People were being and people were the different small kingdoms or aristocracies were competing against each other, and they were trying to trying to be the best. And in doing that, the incentives were aligned. Were perfectly were more aligned. Plus, they had more of a hard money standard back then. So I think we could come down. We could be going down to that route, because the whole idea of having bigger nation states, that expansionist mentality, is starting to break down right now. You can see it now with the European Union, with Brexit happening, and in other countries with more more forces coming that are more voters are more into the idea of leaving the Union for obvious reasons, because they have no sovereignty. The European Union went far beyond its means. It became way too political, and it should have stopped at the common market, at a free market economy, and that's it. But obviously, it went too far. But I guess this is also thanks to the idea of thanks to the money printer, is they wanted to create the ECB at the end of the day, and look at what's happening right now. And these money printers actually aid expansionism as well, because when you have the money printer, you want it all, you can do it all.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, agreed. Especially on that ECB note too, with the creation of a single currency, but not having a single tax authority, I think as well too was one of the major issues, which is why I was going to continue to try and get more power within its grasp, I suppose.
Right, exactly.
The one thing that actually really stood out to me when you guys were chatting there as well too is that it's the same pattern both on an individual and kind of a nation state level, in the sense that it's like king to oligopoly, to democracy, and it's like small city states to like larger countries to like giant centralized country, and then we just fracture apart and repeat the whole thing again. And I agree that I do think Bitcoin will at least slow or change or stabilize that cycle at some point in time, because even just intuitively, like the idea of having small monarchies, small kind of little fiefdoms on a Bitcoin setter makes sense, right? Because if you think about even the distribution of it, you have these giant Bitcoin holders who are going to have all the wealth. We're going to end up buying a lot of land, and they're going to own that land, like crown land, but they're going to be like, okay, maybe I can let other people live on said land that I own. And essentially, you've just established another monarchy living on his private property, the land of the king there. I was super curious about this, and you might not have any more information, but I did want to touch on it. So you mentioned that we have this idea of returning to monarchy potentially in Romania, France, and Serbia. And so first and foremost, what is going on in Romania and France, if there's any little movements or rumors happening there? And then secondly, what is the probability that I'm currently talking to the future king of Serbia?
I'll start with France. France has 2 or 3 pretending families to the throne. One of them is the Napoleon Bonaparte, which I'm friends with. Good guy.
Me and Napoleon, we go way back too.
Yeah, exactly. He's in finance, traditional finance. I don't think he doesn't quite get Bitcoin yet, but maybe one day. And I think France, with what's going on, which is happening everywhere in the world right now, it's not doing the best. So the idea maybe can be floated around. I'm saying kind of maybe further away in France. That's why I started France. But Romania is somewhere that could be quite relatively close, and we are friends with the royal family in Romania. We're actually the next in line to be head. Nicholas and his wife Alina, they became godparents to my second child, our daughter Maria, and so we're quite close to them. And Romania suffered a very similar story to what we had to Yugoslavia. The fall of the monarchy happened more or less at the same time. And a lot of people out there are, they're starting to question that, starting to raise the question about, maybe it's a good time to return back to constitutional parliamentary monarchy. And same here in Serbia. This has always been in question ever since the death of Tito, that people are, if history had to be corrected, the way that the monarchy was taken away over here, then if you wanted to correct history, then you would return back to where we were before and have a constitutional parliamentary monarchy. Whether that will be my father or myself or my son, I don't know. But definitely people are talking about it more. If you probably did a poll right now, you'd probably be about 30%, 40% who would not even question it and just take it, whatever
That's
shape
amazing.
or form. But maybe let's say 30%. Then you have maybe 30, 40% that will be about who are just indecisive. And, with some good campaigning, you could probably turn a good chunk of that around into being pro-monarchy. And then you get, like 10, 20% who would just be like, nah, not at all, of course. I mean, can't satisfy everyone.
Never could.
Yeah.
Gary, I did want to pivot the conversation briefly before we get to the end. But before I do, did you have any other questions? Anything else you want to talk about that as well?
No, I mean, I guess now I'm just, I don't know, it's going to be too much to think about, but I'm just kind of running things in my head. We talk about a bit of the advantage of a monarchy in some ways because of long-term thinking. And like you said, there's no guarantee that the future lineage are going to be good monarchs. You could have your wise, benevolent Marcus Aurelius, and then next generation you got Joaquin Phoenix, and like, all right, well, we're going to shit now. I guess I just wonder, could there ever be a system where, you could have that benevolent monarch, the wise benevolent monarch or dictator, and then find a way to choose the next one that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh yeah, just put my kid in charge. Like,
that's one of the issues about monarchy is the hereditary system. The lineage is always, you can always get a bad egg. But usually, okay, that's always kind of weeded out before it actually before they actually get into power. Is that they usually there's one of them someone might have to be forced to be abdicate or so forth. But then once let's say they're in power, then you would have to have a strong advisory body around that would pick up on this and have to manage the king better, because at the end of the day, if you get a bad egg, if you get a tyrant, then quite often that the tyrant could be taken out, and there will be some coup d'etat either from people close by or actually from the populace if he's really bad. But
it's a nice euphemism, taken out. That's
taken out.
That's quaint.
But also you can fix that going forward. So like, you can make sure like there's weight. You can have like a decision making, like the next heir comes from the family, but not necessarily the eldest. It can be someone, it could be someone, it could be a cousin almost. This is some of the countries, like the Arab countries, I believe Oman does this. And I think Qatar or Bahrain do something similar. I don't know if it's
pretty
directly.
Sure Saudi Arabia does it too, but then
and Saudi as well. Yeah.
They cage or kill the other people. Like, I'm in charge now.
But also, I think if you have one of the things, if you did have an absolute monarchy and you did have a bad king, but you didn't have a money printer, then you'd help to stop a lot of those games. But when it comes to decisions and stuff like that, then you would have to create a system where the king is not necessarily so much in control of, or he is the just like the money printer is the lender of last resort. The king actually would be the law of last resort. You would have a lot of privatized court systems, to incentivize to the best service possible and stuff. So you would never rarely use the king as a decider. So the king really is more of a figure of stability and stuff. So he would find it very difficult to use to go beyond the constitution and start doing reckless stuff. So you'd have to have some sort of system where only when some decisions can't be met privately through the open market, that it would go to the king. So I don't know. It's a good question. It's something that we could talk about. Obviously, monarchy is not perfect. I mean, I think a good book to read about this, about how or what I don't know if you've heard about Samson and Hoppe's Democracy, the God That Failed.
Mm-hmm. Haven't read it, but I've heard
haven't read it. But it's a good read. It's 13 standalone chapters that talk about. Well, they're standalone. He wrote them separately, but put them together in a nice, good order. And the first chapter is, if you're going to read any of them, I think read the first one because it talks about low time preference, beautifully written. And then the other chapter I really like is when he talks about how, because Hans-Hermann Hoppe is a bit of he's a libertarian, so to speak, but he's a Hoppian, which he's also one about family. He's a conservative. Mm-hmm. And this is the other thing, is if you have a system where how to explain, like family is like, it's the basic unit of civilization. It's not, the basic unit of civilization is the household. Basically, families raise children. They transmit language and faith and train habits and accumulate small capitals that compound across time. Basically, you have, if you damage households, you will feel it everywhere. Basically, so you need to strengthen them. And I think this is the thing: is you have to big emphasis on letting families be families. And this is something that comes naturally through Hoppe's natural order. Is that his book that he wrote was about the economics and politics of democracy, monarchy, and natural order, saying that democracy is the worst of two evils versus monarchy the lesser two evils, and natural order is the best. It's basically anarcho-capitalism. But he's saying that he's a conservative. He believes that that we need religion, we need families, we need that the ranks and the guilds and churches that kind of bind us together and stuff. And that kind of leads to having a monarch actually at the end of the day. And you could actually argue that you could actually have some sort of, I won't call it absolute monarchy, but like some monarchy overseeing an anarcho-capitalist system.
Yeah.
And that monarch would be like the protector of faith, of culture, of traditions, of customs. Because a libertarian without any structure can end up doing some stupid things without freedom, without responsibility, without order. It's chaos. It's horrible.
I just gotta say, like, something that jumped out at me while you were talking there as well too is that essentially at this point, if that sort of a system were to evolve, then the monarch is just there really to enforce the rules of the game. And what really we need for an anarcho-capitalist, because again, it's rules but not necessarily rulers. So Bitcoin is a system with rules but not rulers that forces the game how we're going to interact. Church and culture also are a system of rules so that we can all play the same game together, so that we can interact without. And it seems to me that like the monarch would only ever have to step in to kind of reaffirm or perhaps mitigate issues with the rules of the game that the anarchist society is playing.
So so the king basically can't really step in unless he's actually called to step in. That's the idea. Yeah, the crown is basically like the steward of continuity.
Interesting.
And so
like the referee for civilization.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, he's not actually an absolute monarchy, so to speak. It's actually natural order. It's like it's liberty, but with a caretaker, with a continuity, with a steward, as I said. And in that respect, it's not even absolute. So it actually mimics a little bit more of a parliamentary monarchy, like basically like a parliamentary monarchy or a constitutional monarchy, where the king actually has more powers. But you also, in the constitutional parliamentary, when you take away democracy, you actually just have free market. But this can only really happen under a hard money standard, under a Bitcoin standard, so to speak. So.
Agreed 100%. And I would even argue that the monarchy at that point is transitional, almost in the sense that on a hard money standard and a more free market economy, as we got to go towards that anarcho-capitalist, that the need for the king to step in will be reduced, and it may just be purely ceremonial and culture at some point in the future, at some point in time.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. I'm not saying that because I potentially could be a monarch, but I'm saying that it's actually beautiful.
Prince Philip is pumping his own bags.
Yeah, exactly. By King Coin coming soon.
All right, beautiful. There was a few more things I did want to touch up, and then you've been so generous with the time, so I'll try and keep them relatively quick. Because one, what is exciting going on at Jan 3 that we didn't touch on yet? What are you guys working on? What's really going well right now? What do you want to share with everybody? And then additionally, too, I did want to just pick your brain because I believe you're a little bit more traveled than I am and have at least a better sense of Europe and that part of the world. For anyone who's thinking in the terms of like flag theory, setting up the Citadel, maybe trying somewhere else. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm in Canada, which, by the way, I saw someone point out, we had that like no kings protest against Trump. Did you see this, Gary?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a king. Yeah. We have a king.
Yes.
And we're having the no kings protest. It's absolutely ridiculous. So for someone that might want to get out of Canada, any suggestions and what's going on at Jan 3?
So Jan 3, recent things is we have our Dolphin card. Dolphin card. You heard about this?
Nate loves it.
Yes. I love it.
Good. So Dolphin card is we've come out of beta and now we're expanding it to more users, and so far it's been doing quite well. Yeah, there's some issues that we're going to iron out here and there, but that's normal. But this is a fantastic way of actually living on a Bitcoin standard. So you can load up the card with expend up to $4,000 a month, and it's a Visa card. And you can basically load up a little bit first just to make sure it works. So go to a terminal and just see if it works there. And if it goes, if it works and go for it basically. And this is one of the things that we're added to our marketplace. So when you have Aqua Wallet, you have a marketplace. So, which is one of them is for swaps. So that's when we swap between Bitcoin main chain to Bitcoin Liquid and also to USDT on Liquid. So all on Bitcoin. And then we're going to add some other cool marketplace things, paying utilities and all that sort of stuff. So those exciting announcements we're going to hopefully have down the line on Aqua. We also in Jan 3 opened up early this year our AI lab, A1 Labs.
Oh, I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah, this is new.
Tell me about this.
So the first product that we're going to be releasing that is Ecos. And Ecos is like a free private AI transcription app. And it's like, it runs entirely on your device using like lightweight AI models. And it's basically keeping your audio notes privately while delivering like speeches and multilingual delivering accurate like multilingual transcriptions. Sorry, without ever connecting to a server, basically. So it's just one way
That's
of just
very cool.
Yeah, of being organized and stuff. Something I'm going to be using a lot because I'm not very good at note taking at all. And when I'm constantly speaking to people and trying to learn stuff all the time, and I said I'm terrible at note taking, this is going to be really good because it's going to be real time, fully offline. And it can run locally on your phone, and it could be supporting like over 100 languages, and it can organize your notes in your folders, and you can edit stuff, and it's just going to be very easy, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. So that's the one thing that we're going to release soon, Ecos on A1 Labs Jan 3.
Beauty. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks. What else? Well, yeah, we're also in the process of doing some ATMs in Dominican Republic. So that's just our pilot out there where we just got them. We've had them shipped out for a while ago, but just they were stuck in transition. But hopefully those will be up and running soon.
Quick note on that. I'm actually kind of curious because really, like, from my understanding, one of the big target markets was Latin America, offering these stable coins on Liquid and then trying to basically transition people to Bitcoin, right? Show them it there, get introduced to what they're more familiar with, and then work with them. How is that going? Are you seeing more Latin American users come on that are using both USDT on Liquid as well as Bitcoin? Is it still difficult to get in that market?
No, it's great. It's working.
It's working.
It's working. It's USDT is the most used. It's the most used crypto. I hate to say that. In Latin America, it has the most transactions, but a lot of it on shitcoin rails. So ERC20 Trons and other things like that. And this is why we make it really easy for Aqua and for users, is that we have it on Bitcoin Liquid, but you can transfer from any of those shitcoin rails and it will appear as Bitcoin Liquid. So we're seeing a lot of volume these days. We're averaging about $20 to $30 million of volume a month.
Wow.
And I mean, obviously we take a very small fee from that, very tiny fee. It's not much. We need to be doing into the billions to make much money out of that. But it's encouraging to see how much volume there is happening there. So this is happening from all swaps, from Bitcoin to Liquid Bitcoin and then from USDT to Liquid Bitcoin to Liquid USDT. And where am I going with this? You asked about seeing the numbers. So the numbers is like, yes. So we've had a good amount of I think we've now crossed 100,000 downloads since inception, since we've released Aqua Wallet.
Congratulations!
Thank you. So it's going really well. There are some potential competitors out there, but that's good. Competition is healthy, and we're going to have some really exciting other updates along the line. With Dolphin Card, with other sort of marketplace solutions. Aqua is going to be the real next big super app, Bitcoin only super app.
I love it. And then the last part was, if I'm leaving Canada, where am I going? Where's the best place for Bitcoin Citadel?
That's a good question. I would say,
other than Serbia, obviously.
Obviously,
working on that. Serbia is going to be ready in the future. It's prime. We're gonna make it there, especially when it becomes a monarchy.
Yes.
I mean, what are you gonna have to choose? It depends what. I mean, the flag theory is the 6 flags, isn't it? It's like you have like the residency, business, citizenship, tax domicile, asset and data custody, and energy and land. I don't know.
Phrase it differently. Where do you think is the most hospitable place for a Bitcoiner?
People would obviously say El Salvador. I don't know about that. I mean, I think Switzerland.
Really?
Yeah,
That's the first time I've heard Switzerland.
Good old Switzerland.
I think Switzerland is you go to Lugano. We're going to Lugano for the Bitcoin conference there, and you can transact with Bitcoin there, and they have no capital gains tax on Bitcoin. So it's great. It's stable. It's a good place to set up to have your residency. I guess if you had a citizenship from Switzerland, it's fantastic. Being such a good, neutral, powerful country. We talked about tax and then energy and land. I mean, yeah, it's Switzerland ticks a lot of boxes.
And history of sound money too. I think they're the last one to go off the gold standard.
Yeah, exactly. Liechtenstein as well, but that's in Switzerland. So the good thing about Liechtenstein, if you like it, you can smoke in restaurants there.
Oh, good old days.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
I think maybe UAE.
I've heard good things.
Yeah. Portugal to some extent because there's something sexy about Portugal. Singapore because of stability. Then you have the smaller places like Prospera, maybe.
I've never even heard of Prospera.
Prospera is in
no offense, Prospera.
No,
to our one listener from Prospera.
No, Prospera is the free city in I even forgot where it is. It's in Honduras.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's
they're going to be pretty pissed at Serbia now.
I know.
No, we know who you are.
No, but they're tiny and stuff. But like you can go there. They you have like these are like cool small private cities that could have some future, could turn into next Singapore or something.
Right.
That's amazing. I look forward to it. Gary, any last minute things?
No, it was great. Thank you so much for your time. Really interesting stuff.
No, fantastic. Good to speak to you guys.
It was wonderful. Prince Filip, before we let you go, where can people follow you, find more of your work? What should they go check out?
So my royal work, just follow my Twitter, I say X handle, which is Prince Filip 1. But the Bitcoin stuff at Jan3. And I'm also on Instagram, and Jan3 is also on Instagram as well.
Hey, you. Yes, you watching the Bitcoin price movements and the latest exciting news. It's awesome to stay informed, but the real power of Bitcoin comes from taking control. Don't just watch, take action. Head over to btcsessions.ca/learn for free step-by-step tutorials that guide you through every major skill you need to know, plus full video playlists for deeper dives on any topic you like. And if you're ready for the ultimate fast track, scroll to the bottom and check out bitcoinmentor.io for premium one-on-one experience with my team of Bitcoin experts to ensure you get it right the first time. Don't wait. Secure your Bitcoin future today. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen.
If you enjoyed this episode with Prince Filip, please do like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future releases.